Hello students, again we are here to discuss the second part of the chapter of your ancient India, that is from the kings, farmers and the towns. We are discussing about a very elaborate and the first empire that developed in India, that was the Mauryan Empire. About the origin of the Mauryans, historians have different views and they have different criteria to classify all these dynasties and kingdoms and the empires that developed. But in the 19th century, when India was the colony of Britishers, a lot of work by the British officials, because they wanted to study the Indian culture, they wanted to know the norms, the cultural significances, the traditions of the Indians, so that they could survive in India for a longer time. So in the 19th century, even in the 20th century, some of the studies, some of the researches on the first empire of India, that is the early empire that developed in Magad, particularly it was the center as a part of Mahajanpada, studies they went on, and today we are here to discuss about all these things. Now, a question arises among the people that can we believe on all the studies, on all the descriptions given by the different people on the empire, on the growth of the Mauryan Empire? It's a critical question. We have to depend on the studies, we have to depend on the researches that are available to us. For example, Megasthenes, he was a Greek ambassador who visited the court of Chandragupta Maurya and wrote about the Mauryan Empire elaborately, but his accounts are fragmented. They are not consolidated at a place. So some of the problems we face. Moreover, some of the study of the Mauryan Empire, it is also based on archaeology, archaeological findings, inscriptions on rocks, inscriptions on the hard surface, inscriptions on different articles, seals. So all these, they account for the study of the chapter about which we are studying, the first empire. So written records are authentic because even the language that have been used are Prakrit language, Pali language, as Buddhism and Jainism had developed. So Pali language they adopted in the Jataka stories and Panchatantra by the Gupta rulers. And there was another dialect or language, that was Apbhransh. That was the language of the common people. And obviously students, Sanskrit was there because Hinduism, Brahmanas, they were very old and from the very beginning they existed in the Indian society. So whatever Puranas, whatever scriptures, whatever Smritis like Manu Smriti, whatever was written, Sanskrit language was also used. Hindi came up very late actually. So Pali, Prakrit, Apbhransh, these languages were continued, and Sanskrit was already going on, source of other languages. So the Mauryan Empire, Magad, a very big Mahajanpada, having a different type of administrative system, the administration over there. It was ruled over by Chandragupta Maurya in 321 before Christian era, and the empire extended to northwest part of India, including Afghanistan and Balochistan. Expansion of the empire, and the grandson of Chandragupta Maurya, that is Ashoka, who had become an international figure, an international personality. And you know that Ashoka was inspirational for the coming rulers. He was inspirational for the administrators of the 19th and 20th centuries also. And when the grandson of Chandragupta Maurya, Ashoka, when he attained the power, when he became the king, he also conquered the modern coastal Orissa. At that time it was Kalinga. Everybody knows about the Kalinga war, because after the Kalinga war, Ashoka was totally a different personality. He was totally changed when he saw his own brothers, his own family members, they have been killed in the war. His life was totally changed. This makes the Mauryan Empire as a landmark in the history of India, and in the history of not only India, it's a landmark in the international history, because Ashoka is considered to be an inspirational king of the modern kings or the modern rulers. Whatever he wrote in the inscriptions, whatever Ashoka issued, the royal orders to the people, they are very simple, because they preach people about honesty, about generosity, about being humble, about being very polite, about not only respecting our own religion, but also respecting the religion of the others. Not only respecting our own religion, but others also. And he had sympathy with all the religions. And Ashoka sent his only son and daughter to propagate Buddhism. Particularly, he became a Buddhist after the Kalinga War, to propagate this religion, because he saw in this religion humanity. No place for dogmas or superstitions. So on humanitarian measures, this was regulated. And he also appointed Dhamma Mahamatyas to propagate the ideals of Buddhism. And it was his Dhamma, Dhamma, that is a religion, that is a mass religion adopted by many people. So even this royal religion, this title was given to Buddhism, that it was a royal religion, that Ashoka and his family members, his lineage, the family lineage, they have accepted Buddhism. Clear, students? So it's a very interesting background when we talk about the Mauryan Empire. When we talk of the sources, like I told you, the accounts of Megasthenes, and how can we forget Chanakya or Kautilya? As a writer, he was Kautilya. He wrote Arthashastra. In Arthashastra, he wrote about the administration of that time, rightly called the most important minister in the court of Chandragupta Maurya. Very honest and a very learned person. His policies are still prevalent in contemporary world. So there were sources, these two main sources, written sources, and other than that, I told you about the archaeology, and some of the finds are also there in the Buddhist text, Jataka stories, in the Jain texts. In Buddhism, there are three Pitakas. In the three Pitakas also, the history, the administration, the Mauryan Empire have been mentioned very clearly. In the Puranic literatures, in the inscriptions written on the rocks, in the inscriptions written on the hard surface, they give us an elaborate idea about the growth and expansion of the Mauryan Empire, and how the empire extended to modern day Pakistan, Andhra Pradesh, then Uttarakhand, modern day Uttarakhand, Odisha, and from Afghanistan to the coastal area of Odisha. So again there is a question mark, was there a uniform system of administration? Because it was such an extension of the empire. A large extent of the empire was there. So there is a question that was there a uniform system of administration? Actually no. Everywhere the administrative system was separate. Everywhere the different organizations were formed to look after army, taxes, agriculture, industries, and whatnot. So many things are to be looked after in administration. So different organizations were there to look after the administration. Although Mauryan Empire was there for about 150 years, not very long period. 150 years is not a very long period, but even then it extended far and wide. It extended far and wide. As far as the written records are concerned, and as far as the information given by the Greek ambassador Megasthenes, there were 5 political centers at that time, and these 5 political centers were Patliputra, obviously capital, then it was Takshila, Patliputra, where, and then Takshila again, northwestern part, Ujjaini, Tosali and Swarnagiri. Swarnagiri or Swarnagiri you can consider modern Karnataka. The mountain of gold, it was known as Swarnagiri. Giri means the mountain, or Swarnagiri, where Kolar mines, the gold mines were found later on. So like this, there were 5 political centers that makes Mauryan Empire a landmark in the history. And finally, as far as communication is concerned, there was riverine trade, there were sea routes, very famous, because sea routes had been popular for a long time. Even today, 95% of India's foreign trade is done by sea route, 95%. So even at that time, sea routes were very popular. Riverine trade was there because rivers, they were very easy to be crossed, and because it was easy to carry goods and services from one place to another. As far as the maintenance and construction of roads is concerned, riverine trade and seaport, they were easy to manage. So a well-knitted communication was there between the different parts of the empire, because you have seen that there was such a great extension of the empire. And then a very important stress was given on the military power, because it was the era of kingdoms. Because in the south, some other kingdoms were developing, Cholas, Cheras, Pandyas. And then there was rise of Satvahana kings. So these kingdoms were developing in Deccan, Satvahana kings. Then I told you Cholas, Cheras and Pandyas. They were developing, and a lot of stress was given on the military, the soldiers, foot soldiers. Elephants were gathered because elephants were needed in the military. Horses were gathered because they were needed for the military, and the other defense materials were to be looked after. Even the navy, the military that used to work from the sea routes. So all these were well knitted during the Mauryan period, or the Mauryan Empire. So go through all these topics, prepare your notes. We will meet again in the next lecture to complete the chapter, and we will discuss about a very great ruler of this time, that was Kanishka. Correct? So goodbye till then.